This week on Africa Update, Africa's third largest country, Sudan, goes up in flames after military and paramilitary clash. What's at the heart of the matter? Also, we'll take a look at how Ghana works to limit food waste. That's our focus on the program today. This is Africa Update, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Ayuba Ilya. Thanks for joining. In the streets of Khartoum, the war for power is between two generals, but in reality, more players are involved as the two sides have woven a network of political, economic, and diplomatic allies and enemies in a region in turmoil. The Cold War that has been raging between the military forces led by Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and the rapid support forces led by Mohamed Hamdan Daglo, known as Hemedti, escalated into a full-fledged war with heavy artillery and fighter jets raining the air, killing hundreds and leaving many more injured and displaced. But these were the same forces that came together to topple the long-term arm-fisted rule of Omar al-Bashir, the former president of Sudan. So how did things get to this point? My guest on the program today led one of the biggest peacekeeping operations in the world, with approximately 20,000 troops and 6,000 police under his command. He is a former force commander of the African Union United Nations hybrid operation in Darfur, as well as Nigeria's former Chief of Defense Staff and former Chief of Army Staff. He is also a former United Nations advisor and former Deputy Force Commander of the United Nations in Sierra Leone, General Martin Luther Agwai. A biography commissioned by the National Defense College, Abuja, describes General Martin Luther Agwai as an iconic soldier and peacemaker. No better person to give us perspectives on this subject. Thank you so much, General, for joining us on Africa Update. All right. Well, if you can hear me, just when Sudan is due for an elections after the ouster of Omar al-Bashir, we saw the forces, the military forces and the paramilitary, toward what was considered as a transitional or interim government. The claim was to avert a pending civil war. And now we are seeing what is looking more like a civil war itself. So was this really all about having a transitional, or I would say a democratic system?
As stated, it's unfortunate the situation we have found ourselves in Sudan. And as you have said in your introduction, is one of the largest country in Africa. At the time I was in Sudan, Sudan was actually the largest African country in Africa. We thought that with independence of South Sudan, that things would improve. Unfortunate power play has come into it. Everybody, it is very clear that it's going to take a long time to get democracy in Sudan, because the military rule there has stayed so long, and people, some have found out that the easiest way to remain in political power is to use the military. And unfortunately also, the situation we are seeing now has started for a long time. It started even before I went to Sudan in 2003. And it is what is playing out now. Power, people have won money, economic power, and now they have the military behind them, and they are now using that military power to wanting to stay in power perpetually, and not really wanting democratic forces to take its course. So that is what we are seeing it play in Sudan. And this was on for a long time, and the world actually did little or nothing. And besides the internal challenges in Sudan, I also feel that the regional challenges are there, and the instability around that region is there, and the challenges in Red Sea is also there. So these are all the things that are coming into play. And just before I end this comment, I want to end with this comment that when I was living before in 2009 as the force commander, I remember I had an interview with the BBC correspondent, and I made a comment that became controversial, and some supported me. A lot of people criticized me, but I am glad that I have been proved right. I stated that if the situation in Sudan continued the way it was at that time, the crisis in Sudan will continue for the next decade. And that was in 2009. We are now even seeing worse situation than it was before. Thank you.
All right. Okay. One of the conditions given for that transition to happen into a democratic or civilian government is for the collapse of the RSF into the armed forces. Why is it so important to have that restructure?
Well, you see, it is very important if you have to have centralized command. And if you know the military is bottom up and up down. And there is command and control. Somebody has to be in command and control. And once you have two captains on the ship, you know or two pilots on an aircraft, no co-pilot, but both of them are pilots, you know you are heading for disaster. And this is exactly what is happening in Sudan. And also remember that the military has a longer history than the rapid deployment force. They have a longer history. They have been a center of activity. They are an institution of government. They are recognized by everybody. They have people who have got some training and some discipline to be where they are. You can't say the same thing with the rapid forces. They are not. And because they are a bunch of people picked from all over the place, and they are only for the power, and the person who here has again economic power and has got little military training and discipline, that is going to be the end product is power. And any way he gets it, he will maintain it.
Okay. Would you consider the current crisis as perhaps a consequence of Sudan's political history?
I beg your pardon?
Whether or not this current crisis is a consequence of Sudan's political history, going by the previous coups we've seen and the previous civil wars in that country.
Yes, you can't remove it from it. Is because if you follow the Sudan history, the history is that of a group wanting to hold power at all costs. And this is not the first time. Remember, even when I was in Darfur, when we had the UNAMID on the ground, the forces of GEM, the Justice and Equity Movement, moved from N'Djamena, crossed the border, and went at almost taking over Khartoum. So this is not the first time. Everybody will tell you they are for peace. They want to see development. They want to see democracy. But there is nothing in the ground that shows that people want that. Rather, everybody wants power, and they don't mind having that power through the barrel of gun, and that is what they want to maintain it. And this is what you are seeing. That is why there's the fight for Khartoum. Every time any of the groups feel they are strong enough. They want to march on Khartoum and take Khartoum. Jem took Jem when I was there, went as far as Umbruma, almost getting into the center to take over the government. This is the same thing that is being played now. And then, as you have stated, there are regional interests. There are also the global interests. There are people, especially what is happening in the Red Sea. You may not hear it being said in several places, but what is happening around the Red Sea is another big challenge. The issue in Yemen is another challenge, and on and on. So it has to be a global solution to be able to solve this internal crisis in Sudan.
So this is not just about democracy, but there are those who have also argued that perhaps there are resource control issue, that has to do with this as well.
You are absolutely correct. It is the resource control that some people have already gained power and are controlling those resources, and they would not want to give it up. And remember, if you control the government, and you control the political situation, you determine who gets what and in what way. So that is what people are fighting now, to see who gets what, and they are the ones in charge. That is the real challenge. And we know that there are resources in Sudan, especially in Darfur. And that is why Darfur has been on the front burner for a long time. And remember, the genesis of the forces, the opposition forces, the rapid forces, they have started from Darfur. And even the commander himself is a Darfurian. So you begin to understand what is coming on the stage.
Are there ethnic dimensions to the conflict that we are seeing in Sudan?
Definitely, there are ethnic dimensions in it. Remember that during the crisis in Darfur, when the central government then had found she was fighting on two fronts, then Southern Sudan, now South Sudan, and then in Darfur, they created a force on horses, and popularly known at that time as Janjaweeds. So it is these forces that have metamorphosed. They were on horses and camels. Now they have put aside, they have got strength. They have put aside the horses and camels. They are now on technical. They are now having all sorts of sophisticated weapons. And now that's why they are bracing up to take on the national government and the national forces to take control.
Okay, what are the risks that the conflict in Sudan poses for the region entirely? What are some of the risks here that we are talking about? I mean, we have barely recovered from the conflict in Tigray region, that's in Ethiopia, which also shares border with Sudan, and the fragile nature of the region entirely. So, what are the risks here?
Well, there is economic one, the trade. There is trade between Sudan and the strategic minerals that they are in Sudan, especially those found in Darfur. They have to go to other parts of the Africa and Middle East. There are also the issue you have just mentioned, the River Nile itself, which is a problem of water, and that has also created challenges in the region, Ethiopia, Sudan, South Sudan now, and Egypt. Remember the Yemen crisis? There are people who have been recruited in Sudan to cross over to fight on another side in Yemen, and those who you are helping will also help you. If you rob my back, I rob your back. So these are all the challenges. Then you have the internal ethnic challenges in Sudan itself between the Arab tribes and the non-Arab tribes. That is also a challenge. And then you have affiliation with neighbors who have historical connection
which extend up to Nigeria. There are lots of Nigerians origin in Sudan. In lack of time, I would have told you a joke I had with the former president, El Bashir, when I took over as the force commander in Darfur. So it's a real big thing, but it is the issue of somebody winner wants to take all, and the issue of absolute control of resources, people, and power and military. And once you have money, you have military power behind you, then you run it the way you want. That is what is happening.
Okay, as it appears now, the country in itself doesn't seem to have the capacity to resolve these conflicts, as it were. So what should allies and the international community be doing with respect to this conflict to bring it to an end, beyond the rhetorics of saying, oh, let the fighting stop?
Well, I will say AU has been trying, and AU did try to resolve the last problem, and that is why you had the hybrid force for the first time in the world, that the hybrid mission was created. So AU is trying, but however, the trading partners of Sudan have to step up on this issue. The friends in the Middle East and Arab brothers of Sudan, and have to step in and look at the interests of the common man first before the strategic trading partnership they want to establish. The United Nations cannot run away, and the Security Council cannot. And also, we shouldn't forget that there is war in Ukraine, between Russia and Ukraine. Some of the fallout you will find is an extension of that war that has come into Sudan because of the Red Sea and because of presence of other superpowers that want to have bases around in Sudan. So these are all the things we have to put together to find a solution. So it must be a global approach, and all interested parties must be pulled together to work to remove this calamity that is happening and may extend to a protracted civil war in Sudan.
General, something certainly has to give way if we want stability in Sudan, really, because from what it appears, both parties seem to have allies from outside the country who seem to have taken sides, you know, with them on whatever interest it is that they have. So it definitely have to come at a cost, isn't it?
Yes, you're absolutely correct. It has to come with a cost. And that is why I am saying that people, all those interested parties have to remember that they have to be human beings living in Sudan for them to enjoy a country called Sudan. They cannot destroy and displace Sudanese and hope that there will be peace, because without peace, there can't be development and progress, and whatever economic benefit or strategic importance or benefit that they are going to derive cannot be done at the expense of the people of Sudan, because this would definitely create another calamity, humanitarian crisis, that displacement of millions will take place. The killings and injury of thousands and thousands will take place. So something has to be done collectively. Arab League, AU, UN have to work together to find a solution to this immediately, at least to have a ceasefire.
All right. Well, thank you so much, General Martin Luther Agwai. Thank you for making time to be with us on Africa Update right here on Trust TV. We look forward to having you again.
You are welcome.
All right. Well, that's our show now. We'll take a short breather, and then when we return, we'll take a look at how researchers in Ghana work to limit food waste. Join us again.
documenting the Nigerian story.
Now, as part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening...
Now, looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130...
Created a Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secure are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the...
Already, if you look at England squad, you are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at...
Welcome back. You're watching Africa Update on Trust TV. Now, researchers say that tomato farmers in Ghana are good at growing tomatoes but poor at storage. But some are discovering how to give their tomatoes a longer life. From Kumasi, Hamza Adams has this report narrated by Salim Solomon.
In the tomato industry, but he says more farmers are quitting the business due to post-harvest losses.
Whenever it rains, our tomatoes get rotten. Close to 80% of tomato farmers in this community have stopped cultivating their lands due to post-harvest losses.
Poor pricing and improper storage cause tomatoes to go bad before they can get to market. Recent reports by the Danish government show that Ghana loses $1.9 billion annually because of these kinds of post-harvest losses. Ghana's Crop Research Institute can't build better roads or improve storage facilities, but they can make tomatoes last longer. They're doing this by training young people from tomato-producing communities to prepare tomato jam, which has a longer shelf life.
Their parents will not bring the whole fruit to the urban market for the market queens to decide the prices, but they will take some part of it and turn it into jam or other product that we have taught them, and then that one will sell higher than they sending the raw fruit to the market. So this training is going to help those in the rural areas.
Young people are embracing the idea.
It's going to be very, very helpful to us in that we are from villages which do not have any knowledge in post-harvest techniques. So a lot of their produce and our produce goes to loss.
With these preservation methods and an emphasis on limiting food waste, more Ghanaian farmers hope they can stay in business and help feed the country for generations.
And with that, we've come to the end of Africa Update for this week. Join us next week for another time on the program. In case you've missed, you can always catch up across all social media platforms and also on our YouTube live stream. I am Ayuba Ila. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.